unfold in the coming months and certainly the coming years. We are learning more than we can even comprehend right now. But here are a few things that I know I've been learning and reflecting on recently. Not the only things, but here are a few things that I've been learning and reflecting on recently when I ask myself, what is it that I'm learning?
Welcome back to The Thermostat with Jason Barger. If you're currently on a commute, a walk, or just a micro break in your day, glad you're making time to step back, to think, and to reflect on the next steps on your journey. I've never been more convinced. The best leaders and team cultures in the world are the ones that make time to step back and calibrate their thermostat. I hope today's conversation leaves you feeling grounded and inspired. Now let's dive into today's topic to engage our minds and hearts in order to authentically lead and create compelling cultures wherever we are in the world.
One of my favorite questions to ask myself and teams and organizations I serve is, what are we learning? What are we learning? If and when we step back to look at what we're experiencing, what we're thinking, what we're seeing, what we're hearing, what are we learning? What do we need to keep doing? What do we need to let go of? What do we need to stop doing? And what opportunities exist to do it differently? With so much that's been happening in the world in 2020, it's been a ripe time as individuals, teams, and organizations to step back and ask the question, what are we learning? And to make sure that we're asking that of ourselves, but also to the people around us. And what are we learning as teams and organizations in order to move ourselves forward? In 2020, with so much that's been happening in the world in the midst of a global pandemic and civil unrest and economic, political challenges, everything that's been happening in the world, hopefully we're making time and space to step back individually. I know I am in my own life of trying every single day to carve out time and space for my own daily routine, the way I start my days, to step back and to have a spirit of gratitude, but also to ask the question of, what am I learning as I listen, as I read, as I move throughout the world with other people? What is it that I'm learning, and how do I carry that forward on the next step of my journey? And so the hope is that all of us are asking the question, what is it that we're learning individually, but then also what is it that we're learning collectively as teams and organizations? We are learning more than we can even comprehend right now. And much more will be revealed to us as our work and our lives unfold in the coming months and certainly the coming years. We are learning more than we can even comprehend right now. But here are a few things that I know I've been learning and reflecting on recently. Not the only things, but here are a few things that I've been learning and reflecting on recently when I ask myself, what is it that I'm learning? I'm learning and relearning that we are more connected than we ever realize. We are more connected as humans, and we are more connected as humans and as people that we rely on each other than we ever realized. Even when some people would say, and people seem, as we look out into the world right now, some people would say, and it seems as if we are as disconnected and divided as ever. It is in these moments that it has revealed to us and revealed to me how we need each other more than we ever have. In fact, we are connected more than we ever realize. Whether it's the virus, this global pandemic, this virus we can't see, that has reminded us that my behavior, my health, impacts your behavior and your health. And your behavior and your health impacts me. And therefore, we are reliant on one another. And our actions every single day, as I talk about culture shaping within teams and organizations, about the way that we think, act, and interact every single day impacts the people around us, it has been revealed to us. And what we're learning is that that's not just about in our teams and organizations. That's everywhere we move in the world, and realizing when it comes to even our physical health, our behavior impacts the people around us. So whether it's a virus that reminds us this, or it's civil unrest that has taught us that we need each other. We need diversity. We need to pull together, not apart, and that inclusion is a necessity. We are more connected than we ever realize. And as we look around us, hopefully we're realizing that we need to pull toward each other and not apart, that we need diversity, we need inclusion, and that we haven't been as inclusive as we need to be moving forward. What else am I learning? I'm learning of what it means that we have been forced to innovate, that we've been experiencing forced innovation. And what I mean by that is, in the midst of this global pandemic and everything that began, and all of a sudden, all these new ways that we needed to operate, individuals and teams and organizations have realized that they've been forced into innovation. We've had to find different ways to communicate. We haven't been able to be in the same space. We have buildings and companies that were empty, and yet business still needs to happen. And in that time and space, we've realized that we've been forced to innovate, that we don't have to do things the way that we've always done them and quote unquote just get back to normal. The reality is we're moving forward, and we've had to find new ways to operate. We've had to find better ways to do things. And in fact, I don't believe that we're going to just go back to normal, because I don't even know what that means. But we're going to move forward into the future, hopefully, of the way that we interact with one another, the future of work and the way that we are effective and accomplishing a mission that's greater than us. And it's going to require, and at these times has forced us to innovate and to find new solutions, new habits, new ways of operating and being in the world. And so individuals, teams, and organizations have been nudged into finding new ways to operate better, to communicate differently, and hopefully seek out new ways to come together. Another thing, and the last thing that I'll bring up for today, that I've been realizing as I've been stepping back and asking that, what are we learning? Is that we're learning that there is power in congregation. There is power in congregation. I'm not sure when large group gatherings are going to be comfortable for everyone. I know that we're still a ways away of large group gatherings, when we're going to be comfortable being in those. But I do know that what we have been experiencing is revealing to us all that there is power in congregation. There is power in congregation. We, by necessity, have had to go into smaller groups, have had to give space to each other and respect that. And we've found new ways to communicate and to do virtual things that serve us in this time, and over time are going to teach us that we can be even more efficient and effective utilizing tools for virtual communication and messages and alignment. But we're also realizing that there is power in congregation. And so teams and organizations are going to get more strategic about when to gather in the same space together. And that we're realizing that there's such power in doing that we're going to need, and our people are going to yearn for that. And we're going to have to get really smart about when do we create time and space to get together, to listen, to learn, to grow, and to make sure that everyone in the same space is aligned in our thinking and what are our plans for the future. So when I ask myself that question, what are we learning? What am I learning? There's so much, and there's more that we're learning right now than we can even comprehend. But a few of the quick things that come to my mind are, I'm learning that we are more connected than we ever realize. And so as you're thinking about this and you're thinking about your life, the relationships, the people across your team and organization, my hope is that you're realizing that we are more connected than ever, and that diversity is needed, inclusion is needed, and that we need to find new ways to connect with one another and stay connected. I think that we're realizing that we're in a time of forced innovation, a time to find new ways, new habits. And so as we think about our own ways of operating personally, individually, but then also the way that we operate as teams and organizations, now is the time to find better ways to do it, new ways of operating, new ways of communicating together. And lastly, I think we're realizing that there is power in congregation, and there will be a day in our not so distant future when we need to get strategic throughout our years as teams and organizations. There's still going to be power in congregation. When can we get in the same room so that we hear the same messages? We feel the energy in the room. We connect with each other. We look each other in the eyes, and we make sure that we get strategic and aligned around what are the next actions that we are committed together in order to move the mission for our team and organization and for our world forward. So a few questions to ponder along the way. How are you finding ways to connect with your team? How are you finding ways to connect with your team? In this time now, are you finding and creating space and time to connect with them virtually and make sure that you connect with them? And then also, are you going to then figure out when is the time that you can be in the same space? In what ways have you been forced to innovate and find better ways to do things? And when will you feel the power of congregation next? Remember, we're more connected than we ever realized. There are ways in which we can innovate and find new ways to do things. And absolutely, there is power in congregation. We've just got to make the time and space to congregate.
Thank you for listening to today's podcast, and I hope the messages and questions stimulate positive change along your path. As always, if these messages resonate with you and add value to your life, I hope you'll help amplify them throughout the world. Please rate, comment, and share on whatever podcast or social media platform you're using. And share this podcast with the people in your life or work who should be part of these conversations. That way, this spirit does, in fact, spread. If these messages or developing leaders and culture would be helpful to your organization, or you have a question or comment about this podcast, please contact us at jasonvbarger.com. And remember, we all are ambassadors for the culture we want to create in our life and work. We have to own the vision we want to be a part of. The future of leadership is you, is me, is us. Be a thermostat.